You know Drew Carey, but I'm going to tell you who he is anyway. He's the man who hosts The Price is Right. He's the man you've loved watching improving it up on Whose Line Is It Anyway. He's the man who made Cleveland seem wonderful for years on the Drew Carey Show. Drew Carey, it is honestly a pleasure to be talking with
Hi,
you right now.
Rico. How you doing? Can I
Very
just
well.
can I just say how NPR we all look?
It's really. I put on a cardigan for real. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make people feel calm and Mister Rogersy. So
I
I'm
mean,
wearing a cardigan.
we all have glasses on and our
Yeah.
the distinct lack of sun in our lives.
I like
We
how
look like
you.
we look like a study group in college or
It's
something.
true. Speaking of like what we look like, I wanted to start by saying I feel like the crew cut has gotten a little lengthy there,
Yeah,
Drew.
well, I've been growing my hair out, and now I'm just not bothering with a haircut at all. I mean,
Yeah,
screw it. I
of
didn't even
course.
shave. Honestly, I'm kind of embarrassed because it was going to be for NPR. I thought, oh, it's going to be on the radio, so I don't have to shave or anything. But it was all going to be on Zoom. So just at the last second, I was looking over the email and I was like, oh no, this can't be. But I
Yes.
too late by then. So
If you had known, you would have gotten really NPR about maybe
I would
a
have worn
bow
my
tie.
sweater. Yeah, I would have worn a sweater and had my I donated sticker on or something.
So you don't give those out. So that's you're thinking of voting,
I
but you
actually
know
heard the
it's
word
as
primer.
important.
One of the producers used the word primer while we were getting prepped. I thought, wow, this is great to be on an NPR station when
Yeah.
they're
Oh, we're all going to learn stuff by the end of
throwing out
this.
those words at you.
It's called lifelong learning. That's one of our
Yeah,
goals here. By
yeah.
the way, my hair, I feel like this is like you're looking at about 2 months. Like this whole thing hit, and I realized on the first day of quarantine that I was not going to be able to get a haircut. So I'm getting very close to like 70s British talk show host.
I
All I
love
got
it.
to
I love it.
everybody Google Dave Allen. I'm getting very close to this guy. Just need the mutton chops.
I can't wait for you to debate the hologram Nixon.
It's coming up. We can make that happen with Zoom.
You really could.
Who are not, by the way, supporters of this, so we should stop hyping them. I want to ask you, first of all, so how are you adjusting otherwise? You're not getting your hair cut, obviously.
Well, you know what? I was really in the mood for a break anyway. Like the whole before we shut down Price is Right production, I was I couldn't wait for the season to be over because I had a couple personal tragedies, and I was like,
Hmm.
I just couldn't wait to get. I was going to take a big motorcycle trip for like a month, 2 months. I was
Wow.
thinking stuff like that, where I was just going to hop on my motorcycle and just go and talk to you later. And so I'm pretty good at being alone. I'm a pretty good loner. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't probably are surprised to hear that about me because I'm on stage all the time, but I'm really good at like turning it off and just sitting by myself
I think
all
a
the
lot of a lot of performers, I think, are introverts a little bit.
yeah.
You
And then
think that's true?
I'm lucky because I have, money and I have a nice house. So I really have nothing to complain about. And I talk to my friends and, I obviously miss seeing people and going places and working, but I really don't have it bad. So I'm counting my blessings all the time, actually.
I have a feeling that after this is all over, we're going to have a sudden influx of amazing novels because everybody's going to have
That's how it
months.
works. That's how it usually works. Yeah.
I,
I have tons of ideas.
yeah, are we going to see Drew Carey the novel?
Oh no. I just, but I'm really not motivated to do anything. That's the thing. Like I'm not like normally during a break, I could like get things done and think like, oh, I have so much time, but because everything's so in flux, I'm just taking it day to day, doing what I feel like, trying not to I'm a big person about keeping the nest organized and
Very
clean.
clean.
Yeah, like whatever the main rooms of your house, like the dishes are always washed, kitchen counters are always done, garbage is always taken out, bed is always made, things
So,
like that.
so once
That's
you
very important.
so once you've done that though, now that you're
Yeah,
indoors all
yeah.
the time, now what? What happens after that?
And I need a book to read or a show to watch or like my friends are I'm constantly in touch with my friends. That seems to take up a lot of my day. And I do luckily I have like a side project. I'm not trying to pump it or anything, but
Do it.
I do have a radio show on Sirius on channel 21. It's
No,
on
no, no,
tonight.
no. We're gonna have to edit that out.
Yeah, sorry, but it's on
Sorry.
every Friday night and it takes me about a good 3, 4, like I get good at 6 to 10 hours every week to put this 3-hour show together. And I only talk like 5 minutes an hour. And the rest of the
Wow.
time it's just music, but I pick all the music. So it's me
Oh,
picking out the
nice.
songs, what order they go in, make sure it all flows right. And luckily I have this hobby. I don't get any money for it. I just do it. It's like a hobby job for me. And luckily I have that. And that way I can like talk to my fans or people that listen to the show anyway. And play music and gives me a project. So that's something.
Tell me what I've actually been doing. I do some music writing on the side, and I've
Oh,
been getting tons of requests for, self quarantine playlists. So, what's
oh,
maybe your like top three
uh,
self
the sh-
quarantines?
well, I would go to the Sirius app and look at my show. I have
Oh,
really,
would you?
yeah,
That's
I
a surprise.
I have really good songs on my. It's rock and roll. The show is called the Friday Night Freakout, and it's all rock and roll music. The station's called the Underground Garage, so it's all garage based rock and roll. But there's
Oh,
also
garage rock.
punk, psychedelic, R&B, funk. Like it's a whole mix of things, but within the rock and roll umbrella and the pop music umbrella.
Hmm.
Um,
You're
almost
not
like
going to
a
give
rock.
us one. You won't give us like one song. Like, what's the number one
I'm
thing to get you
I'm
through?
gonna look up my playlist for this week right now, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm gonna be playing.
Please do.
I start out with "Nervous Breakdown" by Eddie Cochran,
Oh,
Harry
nice.
Nilsson's version of "Subterranean Homesick Blues,"
Oh, there you go.
a song called "San Francisco Blues" by Mungo Jerry, followed by "Backdoor Man" by The Doors.
Wait a minute. Mungo Jerry did another song other
Yeah,
than
besides in the
"Summertime."
summertime, yeah, San Francisco Blues.
That's miraculous. I
There's a new
told you we
group.
were going to learn stuff in public radio.
Yeah, there's let's see, what I'm trying to pick like Night Clubbing by Iggy Pop, followed by
Oh,
Rock On
nice.
by T Rex, then Roll With It by Oasis,
It's a
followed
little
by
it's a
Where
little
Have All the Good
uncool.
Times Gone.
It's a little uncool that you did night clubbing since nobody can go night clubbing right now.
Yeah, but
That's
it's a good song. I heard it on I heard it was on the soundtrack of Westworld for some reason. Westworld always has these like
yeah.
futuristic like covers of songs, which makes sense. And you're like, oh, that's a really good like cover that they would play in the future in an old Western saloon. But then in just the background music, it wasn't in I forget the different names they use for the soundtracks, but when it's just a character walking down the street and they were playing night clubbing, and I was like, man, that was a pretty good call
Yeah.
right there. But
And
I'd
why
play
not?
like
They just
that's
did the job for you.
yeah, that's pretty much my kind of the feel for the show,
All right.
stuff like that.
Here's the other thing I think everybody's definitely doing right now is eating. And that's why I wanted to introduce maybe something that we'll do in future editions of these hangouts. It's a little segment I'm going to call "What's in Your Hoard." What, as soon as you heard that maybe we weren't going to be able to have constant access to everything we wanted, did you like rush out and buy 25 bags of?
Well, luckily, I'm one of these people that always buys more of everything that I need. So I don't want to stop on my way to work and go to Rite Aid or CVS or whatever and get a deodorant if I run out. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
I'll order on Amazon and I'll get like legit like 15 deodorants, just like throw them in a drawer. And I have this little cabinet that's just like a little mini CVS at my house or a little mini Rite Aid. And it's got tons of deodorants, supplements. I already had toilet paper and paper towels, just masks because I don't want
Okay.
to stop and get all that stuff little by little. So
And you're
I was good on that. I only drink water, so I'm good on that. I had a bunch of bottles of water already stacked away.
okay.
And then I've been just relying on like Postmates and food delivery to
Uh,
eat.
okay.
And I mean, I do, and I make my own breakfast every morning, and then bacon and eggs, and a couple cups of coffee, bulletproof coffee that I make. So I was a little
All
worried
right.
about getting that, but so far I've been lucky. I'll just go to Instacart and I'm able to find bacon and cream, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. It's not the worst. I will say that I wish now that I had somehow, I don't know how I would have stored it, but I can't find lettuce. White
Oh,
lettuce
wow.
specifically. I get like plenty of carrots. There's carrots all over the place out there.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to be rioting for carrots.
I get frustrated about, I mean, I know there's a good reason for it right now,
Oh,
like
for sure.
the different supply lines that supply restaurants as opposed to grocery stores, and how
Absolutely.
some people are throwing like eggs away and dumping milk, and I'm like, "What?
Yeah, I know. I
That
know.
doesn't make any sense."
We have
But then
not been set up for this.
no, but then I realize, oh, this is all different thing. I mean, it's a thing that I hope will be straightened out by
Yeah,
people
of
that know
course.
more about this than me, you know.
Yes. Well,
I meet people at the prices right all the time. I always talk to the audience, and I'll meet people that are in college. I go, "What's your major?" And they'll go logistics, and I'll go like, pretend to yawn because I like sound boring. Or like, I bet you're fun at a party. I make jokes like that. But now I'm
oh
like,
yeah,
can I get a logistics person to talk to? Because
yeah.
that's now the most fascinating subject in the world to me is how you get all this stuff from point A to point Z.
Of course, those guys are the most important people on the planet. Now
Right, yeah,
we've
right.
got to
Yeah.
protect them. Somebody needs to like be building a fortress around them.
Crazy.
I actually we have some photos. Photos, Jesus, we have some questions. Some questions. They're different. These are
everybody's
different than photos. It turns
everybody's
out.
been day drinking, man. Don't be too hard on yourself.
We can talk about that afterwards.
I
Here
only
are
I only drink water.
I'm that's what's in here, I promise. It's gin. That's not, it's water. So I've got three questions that were sent in. I hope we can get to all three of them from some folks that I thought were great. We actually got a lot of questions, but these are the best.
Sure.
Um, First one from our audience: how would your life have turned out if on November 8th, 1991, you stepped out onto Johnny Carson's stage and bombed?
Oh my god. Well, I'd be dead. Because I
I
would
don't
have
think
just
that's
went.
true.
I would have went back home and stuck my head in an oven or something. I don't know. That would have been the worst. I you're so set up on that show to not fail because they've gone over every
Interesting.
joke, and I've tried that. That was like some of my best material that always worked no matter what, and it was kind of foolproof. Like even the worst that could have happened to me is it would have been okay, and Johnny would have just said, "Hey, nice job," and I would have walked out like normal, and I would have had a Tonight Show set, and I would have kept on doing stand up.
Okay.
So, but like the totally bomb in a situation like that is so
Yeah,
almost
it's
impossible. But
as I as
I would have like I bombed a lot. Like even after the Tonight Show, I've had so many stories of just like eating it so badly, you just wonder what happened to you.
tell the best.
Oh yeah, I had
Best.
I'll tell you the one that was horrible, and I'm still apologetic about it. I just want to apologize again to these poor people. I got booked. This is after the Tonight Show, so I was already this big, well-known comic, right? And I got booked by a chain of stores that I won't mention because I want to spare them. And everybody, big corporate like Christmas party, end of the year thing, right? And the person booked me, and I said, "Well, do you want the corporate clean act or the my regular act?" And because I can clean it up, but I have kind of a dirty-ish act half the time. And the woman said, "No, just we're all adults, just do your regular act." And I was like, "Okay, great." So I show up, and everybody's like in matching like corporate jackets, like they're all dressed the same, and they're all at round tables in this ballroom at a hotel. And some guys up there giving this really like quarterly sort of report or the salesman thing, really dry. And then I get introduced, and I come up and I start doing my act, and there is total silence. And I'm talking like the first couple minutes. Imagine, like, if you're listening home, imagine this. Imagine you're at a party with a bunch of people, and you say, "Oh, I have a joke for you," and you tell them the joke, and not only do they stare at you and not laugh, but they're wondering who the hell invited you and what are you doing here? And then let that feeling go on your head. Like, look at your watch and time that for like 5 minutes,
Yeah, they say
and
that an
imagine how you
earthquake.
feel.
Yeah, they say that an earthquake, like if it lasts a minute, that's like a really long earthquake. It doesn't seem like a minute.
No, no,
This
it's
is like
just
the
like
earthquake.
time just stops, and you're just like, it's like a disaster. And some guy comes up, and an older man comes up, and he walks up from a table, and he grabs my arm that has the mic in it and pulls it down, and he leans up and he goes, "I'm the CEO, and if you don't clean up your act, I'm going to take the mic away from you."
least he didn't have an actual hook that he extended
Yeah.
slowly from off stage, Muppet
And
style.
I looked in the audience. I said, I'm very sorry. This is a whole misunderstanding. Let me try to recover here. And then I tried to tell a couple more jokes. And by that time, I couldn't remember. I was so shook up. I
Oh
couldn't remember
God.
what order anything was going in or what even my set list was. And I was just all on the fly in my head, because it's all memorized. I don't have notes. And finally, I just said,
Sure.
look, I'm really sorry. This was a whole misunderstanding. Pretend I was never here. I really apologize. Like, I pretend you never saw me, and I put the mic down and I walked off stage.
Oh my
And then
God.
I got walked out of the venue and ran back to my hotel room, which was only a couple blocks away. And somebody gave me a ride for it, but I just ran back to the room, closed the door, ran a tub, sat in the tub, shut all the lights off. I could hear somebody knocking at my door like about 15 minutes later. I didn't answer the door, and I kept the deposit.
Wow.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I kept the deposit, and
You know,
I kept the airfare, but I didn't even take the rest of the money. And I've been really like, I regretted. That was a big lesson for me, and it
to
happens to the
adjust your
best of
act,
them.
basically to adjust your act to your
Well,
audience.
there's a since we're on NPR, there's a very interesting thing in comedy that people don't realize or talk about. Even comedians don't realize, but it's always there. And Freud wrote about it in a book. I forget the name of the book now, but it's sitting on a shelf right over there. And when I was in college, I was browsing in the library one day and I came across this book. And I didn't read the whole book, but I read about this in the book when I was at the library one time in college at Kent State. And he talked about the spirit of play. And it's
Mm,
very important. If there's no spirit of play amongst the people around you, nobody's going to be laughing. It doesn't happen. Like the
wow.
psychology of the group has to be, everybody has to be in a playful spirit, so they know that nobody's really doing anything that's harmful or attacking anybody. And once that's when, in comedy terms, when people say, oh, I'm going to warm up the audience, what they're saying really is get them in a playful spirit. If you
Wow.
look at it that way, that's the thing. It's where you play like upbeat music and fun music, you get a couple drinks, everybody's in a loose mood. What they're getting in is trying to be in the spirit of play, in a playful spirit. And if that's there, you can literally joke about anything, no matter how dark, no matter how awful.
Mm,
Doctors and nurses and operating rooms are famous for telling like dark, like awful
sure,
black
sure,
humor
sure.
jokes that you would never repeat outside the operating room, but they have to keep a sharp mind and keep it up. And being in a spirit of play is part of that. And if you talk about people that are in like special forces or something, or people that are on survival shows or have to survive, they'll say that once people are unable to joke about things, that's when you know
Oh
things are about to
wow.
take a turn. Because, like, oh no, now we're all so messed up and it's so screwed up, we can't even make jokes now.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Yes.
So,
That's
yeah,
also the vibe at the end of like Thanksgiving, like
yeah,
with your
yeah,
family, like
yeah,
after 15 hours at
yeah.
grandma's
But
house.
if you ever go to a comedy club or even like see famous things about people bombing at White House Correspondents' Dinner or
Oh
something like
man.
that, the what you'll notice is the spirit of play isn't there. So there was no spirit of play at
Yeah.
this thing. They were having their very serious event, and they think, oh, we'll have a comic on, we'll see what that's like. But there was no, and I didn't adjust it and put them in the spirit of play. I'm taking the whole blame,
There,
not them. I could have went up there and talked and went out to the crowd and shook the CEO's hand and loosened him up and let him know I was no threat, and then got on with my act and could have killed all that time. But I went in with the wrong thing, backstage, no contact, weird setup. And anything that takes away from the spirit of play is that's the end of your show.
and it occurs to me like this question about bombing on the Tonight Show. As you were saying, they do everything that they possibly can to
Yeah,
keep you from
everybody's in a good
bombing.
mood. Johnny already did his monologue. Everybody's happy. The band's playing.
You're at the
It's all,
Tonight Show,
you're
like
at the
Johnny
Tonight Show.
Carson's
Yeah,
there.
it's all set up. And you're doing jokes that you already know work. You're not doing brand new jokes, which, by the way, speaking of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, that's why a lot of comics bomb at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah,
I got a standing ovation when I did the White House Correspondents'
I
Dinner,
remember.
because
It has not happened a lot lately.
no, my whole act, I did it in front of so many times in front of a crowd. Even that week, I went to a local comedy club in DC and did it there just
Just to
to
make
see a
sure.
DC audience to see how they reacted to the jokes. And
Wow.
I consulted with a guy who was a political writer, and he was like, "Well, maybe they don't want to hear about that. Maybe they don't." I mean, I really did a lot of work, but what'll happen is they'll do it like a talk show host does it, where they don't try it on anybody but the writers.
Mm.
Like when you see most talk show hosts, because I've done that a little bit too, filling in.
Sure.
You go out, and that's the first time you're doing those jokes in front of somebody. So you really don't know if they're going to work or not. You're just trusting your gut instinct and the writers. And then you kind of have Johnny Carson was like famous for his savers when a joke would bomb. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
is everybody else. They always have to have like a look to the band leader if a joke bombs or something to save it. But that's because, but I didn't let that happen to me at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But a lot of guys
When the
do.
president is maybe sitting
Right.
right there.
Yeah. Here's the
That's
president.
probably
Yeah.
not the
Bush
time to
was sitting
try out.
there. Cheney was sitting there. The whole Joint Chiefs of Staff, Condoleezza Rice, and right after 9/11, I
Oh
couldn't
my
take any
God.
chance on. I couldn't. Yeah, it was the May
Was
after
that
nine
day?
eleven.
It was the day after
No,
9.
the May. Sorry,
The
the May.
May. I
Yeah, it
was
was in
like,
the. Yeah, sorry,
Jesus,
no, it wasn't the day, but it was in
that would
May
not be
after
good.
9/11, and after that, there was like, remember, there was like, oh, they don't like Dick Cheney and or anybody in the same room anymore because
Yeah, absolutely.
everybody was in this ballroom in D.C. for the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The
Oh
whole
my
Joint
God.
Chiefs of Staff, Condoleezza Rice, everybody in the same ballroom
That
at
is
the
not the
same
time to
hotel.
test.
No, same hotel where Reagan got shot.
This is not the time to test out your material. Let's see if this
No,
flies.
no.
Why not?
That's the time to go in with stuff that you've at least tried a few times in front of an audience.
We've got so little time, and I would love to be talking with you for seriously ever. It's been a
Anytime
joy.
you want. I have nothing to
But
do, so have me. I'm glad to have somebody to talk to.
really, you said you talk to friends. Don't lie to me. But here's the last question from our audience. I'm sorry,
Sure.
there were 3 of these. The person that we didn't use, I'm really
That's
sorry.
okay.
Have you ever had a situation where you wrote an original joke only to learn someone had come up with the exact same thing?
Oh yeah, not very often because I try not to. Because I try to the if you're a budding stand-up comic, the trick to avoid that is make everything personal as if it
Mm,
happened to you,
mm.
or make everything about you and joke about what happened to you and personalize it. But yeah, and it's not just me, but I read the funny papers all the time. I read the newspapers, and one of the reasons I get the LA Times is honestly because I want to read the funnies.
Wow.
I really enjoy reading the funny paper, I'll see the same joke in 2 or 3 comic strips sometimes. Like, coffee makes you jittery. There's 3 jokes about that. Or dogs are dumb and cats are smart. There's 3 comics with the same joke. Or like, dad can't take a nap. Look at that. That's
Let,
3 jokes
let's
about
be
that.
honest, though. It's like the funnies have been around for a long time. They can't really offend anybody in the newspaper. So, like, that's basically what you have to joke about: is dogs and cats, coffee,
Well, some of them
and
do. There's
your
like
job.
Pearls Before Swine really goes there sometimes,
That's
and
true.
Bizarro. And a lot of them are really kind of cutting edge for being in the comics.
I'll be honest. I haven't read the funny pages in a long
A
time. Maybe
couple,
you.
I don't read all of them, but there's a few favorites that are just like right on the money that I just don't want to miss.
All
You
right.
know.
Do
Yeah.
you have an example, by the way, for this person of like the joke that you wrote that somebody else aped,
Oh yeah, it was
or
a
that you
joke.
aped by
It
accident?
was a joke about me. I don't like working out in gyms or something like. It was something like I don't like working out in gyms that have a window, or I like going to gyms that have a window, and I like sitting in a chair in front of them and smoking a cigarette, going faster, faster, just yelling at them. And then I did it, and I'd been doing it for 6 months, something like that. I'd never done it on TV or anything. And a comic who I'm blanking on the name of, but a guy that I was super friendly with that I used to run into at the clubs all the time, and a really good comic. He came up to me after the show and he goes, "Hey man, that joke you just did, I've been doing a joke like that for a couple of years now." And I went, "Oh man." And he goes, "Yeah, it's blah, 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 blah." And he did it. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, buddy." And then I just stopped. And that
Yeah, you
happened.
just never did it again.
No. And that, it's bound to happen once in a while if you're writing a lot of jokes.
But
I
how do you know that he didn't rip you off? How can you be sure? It's like this
Well,
world
he
where
was the
not
kind
everything's being recorded. Who
because he was a
originated it?
well respected, and I've,
Okay.
professionally friendly with him and knew he wasn't the type of person to do that. Your reputation is kind of everything in a comedy club. And once you get a reputation for stealing jokes or something, nobody will talk to you. It's the weirdest thing. Like when you're coming up in the comedy world or in the comedy world, you can tell how funny a guy is by the kind of comics that'll hang around them. Because the funny comics will hang around the other funny comics. And if you're
Oh
not
wow.
funny, they don't socialize with you as much because they don't, or if you're not original enough, they don't want to be socializing with you as much.
Wow, dog eat dog.
Kind of like musicians or radio hosts, probably.
Sure. Drew, I'm honored that you allowed me to hang out with you for this brief period of time.
I love being
Uh,
on NPR. It makes me feel smart.
well, it makes everybody feel smart, but I feel smarter for talking to you. I learned the thing about Freud. I'm going to use that for the rest of my life. I want to thank you for that and for joining us today. Thanks also to KPCC and LAist for making this whole thing
Yeah.
possible. Let's do this again.
Yeah, let's. Take care of yourself.
You as well. And thanks to everybody who's watching.
See ya.